So, we can see that there's basically an emphasis on this no trade part of the question here, with the 14 EMA, being flat here. So Tony had, I guess, tried using a 1.3 setting here. So we'll kind of play around with this, flat thing here. So, just so you know, guys, we don't provide any kind of suggestions as to what settings you guys should be using. That's settings are purely subjective, and it's up to you guys and the way you guys design the system. And, basically, and, a lot of the, trading is very, very subjective. So, so just so you guys understand that, we don't provide any kind of suggestions here, but we will go through on, kind of figuring out, how do you go through the iterations of finding, what you consider is flat. What would you, what setting would you like? How do you discover what setting you're gonna like to be to consider to be flat, right? So let's see here. All right, yeah. So the first thing is, we'll find this. We'll identify when this 14 EMA is flat. So let's go to our solver nodes, and we're going to need a slope solver right there. Let's connect that in. And let's give this a name. And actually what we're going to do is find out, when it is not flat, right? Because, you only want to produce signals, when the EMA is sloping. So, so actually, we want to find the opposite here. So really, it just comes down to, playing around with the maximum and minimum slope directions here. All right. So let's see here. If we stretch this out, we can see that there are, two output sections here. Let's see here. Actually, I guess, before we get into this, let's switch our indicator out for the EMA14. So let's do that first, right? Because we want our output here to match the EMA on the chart, not that SMA. So it's going to be a little confusing if we don't switch our indicator. So, all right, so there's the EMA14. Already done, 14 period. All right, good to go. Yeah. Okay, so we're looking at, right, the solid red line there. So let's see. Yeah, let's see if we can kind of identify this area here, right, as kind of being flat. Right, that EMA looks kind of flattish, at least, based on this chart. Of course, if we squish this up, that's the problem with finding flat. Flat is very subjective because when you squish your chart, right, things, look at the, this slope here. The slope looks pretty steep, right? That looks pretty darn steep. I think my arrow is very parallel to the solid red line, right? So, and look at that. So right there, right? Look, my arrow is, pointing up at about, 80, 75 degrees, something like that. But then, look, all I do is just scroll back a little bit, and look, now my arrow looks like it's at 45 degrees, right? And then if I stretch my chart out, like so, look at that. My arrow gets flatter and flatter and flatter. So, flatness is very subjective, based on how your chart is scaled, right? If I adjust the scaling, look at that. My arrow is almost pointing straight up. So, all right, so just keep that in mind that, the angle of something is very, very subjective based on, based on how, zoomed in or zoomed out of the chart you are. All right, let's go back to our little triangle area. There we go. Yeah, so basically we're just going to play around with the maximum and minimum slope here. So let's put in 1.3 and see what we get. There. Yeah, so we can see that, under this chart's current scaling, we only get, right, we're only seeing, let me grab an arrow. We're only getting a slope output, right, when this EMA looks really steep right here. So if we squish our chart up a little bit, let's see what happens here. Actually, it gets even steeper. Yeah, so you can see that arrow is pointing down even more. The more I zoom out of the chart, right? Yeah. So 1.3. Well, this is 1.3 ticks. It depends on what you're doing. If so, the slope, there's different measurement units. We could do ticks, or points, or ATRs, right? If we switch this over to points here, points, and now everything's flat, right? Everything's flat now. So you probably don't want points unless you're working with daily charts, right? Daily charts, like stock charts, where you're looking at daily bars or something like that. So if you're, day trading, intraday trading, you're most likely going to want ticks. Right? So let's probably knock this down. Let's see what happens to 0.5. All right, so half a tick, like that. And yeah, there we go. If you're looking at a chart, you wouldn't expect to see too many flat areas, right? But so basically, all of these black areas, right? No racing stripe. Those are areas where your moving average is considered flat there. So let's see. Let's look back here. All right. So here we go. So we can see that, this triangular area, a lot of this is considered flat, right? We get two bars here in the middle where that EMA, bumps up just enough where it's considered to have an angle to it, right? So there we go. So we can see that with an EMA, all it takes is one bar with a strong move, and that EMA is going to have a slope to it. All right, so there we go. We'll just leave it at 0.5 for now. All right, so simply put, we're finding an EMA that is not flat. So, all right, so let's move on. All right, to our sell signals here. So for a sell, price needs to be below the 14 EMA and the 5 EMA. So that's how we need to, we need to start things here. So, again, what is price? That's subjective. Let's see here. So we do mention the high. So price, I usually, unless I'm told otherwise, I will interpret price as just being the close of the bar, right? Because that is what charting is really all about, is the closing price. All indicators use the closing price of the bar. So let's just make sure that the close of the bar is below the EMA14 and EMA5, right? So to do that, we're going to use comparison solvers, right? So we're going to need two comparison solvers. We'll need one comparison solver for the EMA14 and a second one for the EMA5. All right, so we're going to compare the close to the EMA14. So input A, that's going to be price, right? That's going to be the closing price. So we're going to change the type to price. right? And there we go. So there's the close price already selected for us. And then down here for input B, this will be our EMA. So let's go and plug in the EMA. All right, there's our EMA. And 14 period is already defaulted for us. And get rid of that. So here we go. We can see if the close of the bar is below the EMA14, right? We're getting a short output, and then I'm looking at this going, why don't I have an output on this bar right here? And that's because I'm still looking at my EMA slope solver. So let's connect up the right one. So there we go. Let's make sure we have the right solver connected up. There we go. So simply put, right, a short output whenever the close of the bar is below our EMA14, and a long if it's above. So pretty simple, straightforward. Now, I could take a quick little shortcut here, and if I click on the solvers tab, right, here's a list of all the solvers I've made so far. So here's the closing price versus the EMA14. I can make a copy of that. So I have two of them now. And I will adjust the name on one of them to the EMA5 and then go into the EMA and adjust that period. So it's a 5 EMA now. There we go. So there's my new solver comparing the closing price to the EMA5. And now for my solver nodes, I can go to existing nodes, and there is that new node I just made, close compared to the EMA5. So I'll click on that. Here it is. So let's plug that in. And so now we're comparing the closing price to the dashed red line. Right? So right here, the close of the bar is just above the EMA5, and it went long. All right, so we have a couple of conditions set up here. So why don't we start grabbing an AND node and start connecting all this stuff up. So there we go. So we have some kind of preliminary prerequisites here, right? All right, so let's move down to the next one here. So in relationship to the signal bar, right, we want the high of the bar 2 bars back to be below the 5 EMA, right? So basically, we are, looking for bars like this, right, where the high is below our EMA5. So we want to find, these types of bars here, right? We can see this one didn't count, right? The high is above our EMA, but we're looking for bars like this. So again, we can take this existing solver here where we're comparing the closing price to the EMA5, right? And we can just do a slight tweak to this. And instead of using the closing price, we can adjust it to use the high of the bar. So let's go back to our solvers tab here, make a copy, and then I will adjust this so that we're going to either use the low for a long signal, we'll use the low of the bar, but for a short signal, we're going to use the high of the bar. All right. So yeah, remember, these instructions are for a cell signal. All right, so we'll just reverse everything here for a buy signal. All right, so for a short, a cell signal, right, we're using the high of the bar. And so then for a long signal, we'd be using the opposite. We'd be using the low of the bar. And we want this to be 2 bars back. All right. So we'll get to that in just a moment here. So let's go to our solver nodes, and there's our high-low compared to the EMA5. Plug that down here. So we want this to be 2 bars back. So we're going to grab a look back node, connect that in, and let's connect this all up. And with the look back node, right, it has this displacement function, and a NinjaTrader's displacement is also a way of looking back, X number of bars. So if we displace two bars, and let me adjust the name here. So actually, I kind of like to do it this way. Just a displacement of 2. Keep that name short. There we go. And let's take a look here. Right, so you notice right here, this bar, right? We can see that, the high of the bar is below our EMA5. So how come there's no output? Right? How come there's no signal there? Well, remember, it's coming from 2 bars back. So this bar here, we can see the highs above it. So obviously this doesn't meet that requirement, but we shifted the output from this bar forward 2 bars. So that's how we're getting, right, our 2 bars back. So, all right, so let's take this, move all this back a little bit, and let's connect this in here. And there we go. All right, so we just had some additional filtering going on here. All right. So we just lost some of our output here. So let's disconnect this again. Right, so there we go. We have a lot more output here. And then when we add in this extra requirement, right, there we go. So we just lost a bunch of output there. So we're kind of filtering things out, right? So as we add each of these rules, we're filtering, more and more, more and more price action out to get, what's really wanted for this pullback signal. All right, let's take a look at the next one here, our third one down. Let's see. All right, so price is reversing, going back up to our EMA4 line. And of course, this is a broad, just kind of a broad general statement. So there's no solver for that because that's not an actual condition. So yeah, so there's nothing we can do there. Essentially, what we're doing is we're kind of, right, taking, let's get rid of that. We're taking this output and we just need to wait for price, right, to move back up to our EMA and hopefully get a bounce off of that. So we'll have to come back to this because what we need to do is, right, take this signaled output and we need to extend it forward a couple of bars so that price can move up to our EMA to get that possible bounce set up. Right. So let's see what we have next here. All right, so here's some conditions we can look for. All right, so basically we have like a maximum of 3 ticks above our EMA14, right? So price is allowed to go up, up to 3 ticks above our EMA14. So let's see. All right, that's going to be a job for a comparison solver. So let's grab another comparison solver. And let's connect this up. There we go. Now, yeah, let's see. Let's find something to kind of work with. Here we go. Let's take a look at this right here. So if you think about this, if you think about this bar as it was being created in real time, what happened here, right? Price moved up, it opened the bar, and then price moved up, and then it moved back down, right? That's how this bar was built. So we can see that ultimately what we're left with is the high of the bar. The high of the bar is what we're looking at when we're looking for this limit of 3 ticks, no more than 3 ticks above the EMA, right? So we're going to actually use the high price of the bar to find these wicks here. So for example here, right, this wick is probably more than 3 ticks above our EMA14, right? So from our EMA14 to the high of this bar, this distance is probably more than 3 ticks, right? So we measure from the EMA on up. That's probably more than 3 ticks. So we would want to eliminate these bars, but this bar, we know that this is definitely less than 3 ticks here. Right? So we're going to let's switch our input over to price. So for a short situation, again, we're going to be looking at the high of the bar. Oops. Try that again. There we go. The high of the bar. And then if it's a long signal, we'll be using the opposite. So let's just go ahead and plug in the low of the bar. And so we have this basically 3 tick limit here. So we'll put in 3 tick in our difference. And then input B, well, that's going to be our EMA. There's our EMA, and we're using the 14 period. And so now we need to look at our outputs. So, which of these outputs are we trying to find? So for a short situation, are we looking for A to be greater than B, by X number of ticks? Yeah, you see how it says 0 ticks right now, even though our difference says 3 ticks. So sometimes on some machines, this text doesn't update. So what you can do is just click on another solver and then click back, right? Click back on our solver. And now we can see this text will update. So now it says A greater than B by 3 ticks or more, right? No, we're not looking for 3 ticks or more, right? We're looking for up to. So in other words, 3 ticks or less, right? So in other words, no more than 3 ticks above. So we're basically looking for this A equals B, within 3 ticks. Yeah, so we don't want A to be greater than B by 3 ticks. We're looking for this A equals B within 3 ticks here. So we're going to set that on and turn these others off. Let's see, actually, let's see, A less than B by 3 ticks. No, yeah, we're not looking for the high to be less than the EMA14 by 3 ticks. Yeah, so this output here would be something like, be something like this, right? So if this is our EMA with a 3 tick offset, we'd be looking for the high to be, less than this 3 tick distance. We're not looking for this, right? We're looking for this proximity. We're looking for that proximity. So, right, we want the A equals B. We don't want the high price to be less than the EMA by 3 ticks. So let's adjust all these and set that to 1. All right. So when we look at the chart, as long as the high, right now, as long as the high is within 3 ticks of our EMA, right, we're going to get a short output here. Right. So now we need to combine this part of the rule here. So the high, so the price can be 1 tick below as well. So let's see here. So, yeah, we have to kind of take all of this into context, but for now, just looking at the individual rule here, right? The high of the bar could also be one tick below. So something like this, the high of this bar, right, is a fraction of a tick below. Here, this bar looks like it would qualify, right? It looks like the high of this bar is within a tick of our EMA, so something like this would qualify. Just purely looking at this individual requirement here. But of course, if we read on, we can see that, that the bar needs to reverse back down. So we ultimately need a down bar. But when we're building the individual conditions, this bar here would actually qualify because the high looks like it's within one tick of our EMA. So, so let's grab actually, before I get going too far, let's give this a name here. So, all right. So there we go. So we're looking for the high or the low price to be within 3 ticks of our EMA. Yeah. All right. So let's grab and see another comparison solver. Yeah, I'm just kind of thinking ahead to myself. So let's see here. Yeah, I think we're going to have to come back to this, but we'll figure that out, as we progress through this. We'll kind of figure out, any additional requirements that we need here. So let's just continue on, and so we're basically going to be doing the same thing, looking at the low or the high of the bar and making sure it's within 1 tick of our EMA14. Right. So, let's just go through and set these up quickly. All right, EMA14. There we go. So again, we're going to use this A equals B within, and yeah, you can see it says 0 ticks. So if I click off and then click back on the solver, there we go. Now our text is updated and it says A equals B within 1 tick. So there's that, and there's that. So, let's see here. So let's take an AND node and just see what we have so far. Well, yeah, we have this one, right? Let me get rid of this arrow, right? So we have, right, this high definitely looks like it was within 1 tick. This one here, yeah, remember this high, it looks like it's within 3 ticks, but there's no output here, right? So this isn't quite doing what we're looking for yet. So here, this high is definitely within 1 tick. So, if we look at all these, we're getting a short, right, or a long if our high or low is within 1 tick of our EMA14. But we're kind of missing this, we're missing this, where is it? Yeah, this 3 ticks above the EMA14. So basically this solver here it got filtered out, right? So what we're going to need is we're going to need to combine this with something else here. So let's grab another comparison solver. All right. And actually, let me start taking some shortcuts here. So let me delete that. So I'll take this high-low 3 ticks, to the EMA14. I'll make a copy. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to remove the distance requirements like so. Let me set these outputs, and then I'll get back to this and explain this in just a moment here. All right, so there's our new solver. So basically this new solver is just looking to see if the high is above our EMA14 or if the low is below the EMA14. So let's connect that in there. Let's see here. So actually, yeah, we'll do this. So we're looking to see if the low is below, right? So for a long output, actually I'll put this backwards. Yeah, I set this up backwards. Yeah, so we want A less than B, right? What is A? If the low price is less than the EMA, right? In other words, the low is below the EMA, right? That would be for a long signal, but you know, remember our instructions are written for long signals. So in this case, we're looking for the high to be above the EMA, right? So getting back to this, so 3 ticks above, right? So the high price is going to be above the EMA, but of course no more than 3 ticks. So it takes 2 solvers to do that, right? So this solver here is saying, okay, A equals B within 3 ticks. And this solver here says, okay, well, our high price needs to be above the EMA, right? So when we take these 2 solvers and combine them together using a AND node, connect that up, right? What we've done is we've created this requirement here that the high has to be above the EMA, but within 3 ticks of it. So we've created this little isolation, right? This little area of interest, I guess we could say, right? This 3 tick area above the EMA, right? And so here, you know, if we look at the high, right, it's more than 3 ticks away. Right, this high it's too high. So there's no short output. Right? There's no short. Right? But we can see the high here, it's above our EMA, but it's within 3 ticks. Our high here is above our EMA, but within 3 ticks. Right? This high is too far above our EMA, so no short output. Right? Again, our high is too far above our EMA, no short output. So, right? So, however, if we look at this, right, for a long bounce, our low is below the EMA, but it's still within 3 ticks. And so we have a long output. Same here, right? We can see our low is within 3 ticks, but it's below the EMA14. Right? So we basically have this condition for a short signal and a long signal at the same time. Right? So yeah, so all solvers are designed to evaluate the long setup and the short setup conditions, both at the same time. All right, so basically that, let's see, yeah, that is, yeah, it took 2 solvers to create this condition. And so now we need to add in, right, this 1 tick below for a short or 1 tick above for a long, right? And remember that was this guy here, that solver. So let's get rid of that. And what we do is we use an OR node this time around. So let's look at this, right? So our high is below the EMA, but it's within 1 tick of it, right? So we have a short, so we have it, right? We have a short output here from BloodHound. So this bar, yeah, well, we know this bar, the high, it's above it, but it's within 3 ticks. And the opposite is also true. The low of the bar is below the EMA, but within that 3 tick offset. You know, so this would be, you know, so that would be, right, this condition here for a buy setup. So as we look at these, right, this one, right, this one's good for a short. This is also good for a short. And let's go over here, right? Yep, there we go. So our high is within that 1 tick below the EMA. So we're good for a short there too. All right, so basically here's our kind of logic there for this condition here. All right, so let's add this next part here. So for a short, right, the bar or price needs to reverse and proceed back down, right, and close down below the EMA14. So we need I'm wondering if I could just copy one of these solvers. No, I don't think so. So let me just grab a new comparison solver. Put that over here. Connect that up. So again, we're checking to see if the closing price is going to be above or below our EMA14. All right, so again, input A, that'll be price. We're using the closing price of the bar this time. And input B will be our EMA. So let's just plug that in real quick. There we go. All right, so for a short, we want A to be less than B, right? In other words, we want the closing price to be less than our EMA. There we go. So the close, right? The close of this bar is above the EMA. Close of this bar is above the EMA. You know, and all these closing prices are below. So let's grab another AND node and connect these all up. All right, so basically here's both of these rules here so far. Yeah, so we have, yeah, it's good that we check this. So, yeah, I'm just looking at, I'm just evaluating how this is written again. Okay, yeah, so basically, we need to eliminate these up bars. So in other words, you know, this up bar doesn't meet this requirement here. Well, actually, no, it doesn't. It doesn't meet this requirement, right? Price then reverses and proceeds back down. Right, so that would be a down bar, basically. So I need to grab myself a bar direction, plug that in there, and there we go. So these up bars were eliminated there, right? This up bar and this up bar was eliminated. So now we're left with these down bars, right? So we can see that price had moved up, right? Basically broke through our EMA, or at least got really close within 1 tick of that EMA, and then headed back down, right? And then proceeded back down and closed down below the EMA14. There. So we have some additional filtering. Right, so here we go. We can see a bunch of bars here, you know, that are possible kind of setup or signal bars here for our bounce. All right. So now we have this other condition here. So here's our qualifier. It says unless this bar touches the EMA5. So we could actually turn that into, a new rule here. Yeah. So basically, our bar, must not touch the EMA5. All right. So let's see. The bar must not touch it. So here we go. So right there, right? That one and that one, we can see our bar is touching the EMA5. So great. We have a couple of conditions to look for here. Now this one, it's hard to tell. It does look like it's barely touching that EMA5. So this might get removed as well. So we know that we're going to remove this bar and we're going to remove this bar. This one is questionable. It's hard to tell. Yeah, so let's grab another comparison solver, and essentially we know that the bar is touching our EMA5 if the close is below the EMA5, right? So that is what this solver back here is doing, right? Is the close, above or below our EMA14. So let's grab, actually I wonder if, yeah, it's very close to this solver that we made earlier, right? We're comparing the close to the EMA, but in this case, we need the close to be above for a long or below for a short, right? So if we look at this, right, for a short output, right, in other words, for a sell condition, we want A to be less than B, right? So we want the close to be less than our EMA5, but we're actually looking for the opposite condition, right? So when the bar is touching our EMA5, right, the low of the bar, the close of the bar, because this is a range bar, it's going to be the closing price. We could say the low price as well, but let's see. Actually, yeah, you know what? This system is designed to work in real time, so we'll actually use the low of the bar. Yeah, we'll use the low of the bar for this. We'll adjust this ever so slightly. If we're waiting for the bar to close before we get a signal, then we would just use the closing price. However, if we're building this in real time, then we need to use the low of the bar. And I'm wondering if I have some examples. Yeah, we're not going to have any. We're not going to be able to look at anything historically because this is a range chart, right? So with a range chart, right, the bars always close at the high or the bars always close at the low. But if we think about how a range bar builds in real time, yeah, let's take a look at this bar here, right? If this range bar, no. Let's do this one here. So if this range bar was building in real time, right, it's possible that price could have ticked down one tick and price would be touching our EMA5. And then price could be moving back up, right? Then price could be ticking up and down for, who knows how long, all right, before price finally settles and closes down. So while this bar is building, it's possible that this bar could open up. It could go tick down one tick, actually, it could even tick down 2 ticks and then go back up, right, up to here, create the high wick, and then price could come back down and then close down, right? So during all this time, right, if price had come down first, it would have created a low wick as price moved back up. So we would have a low price to work with in real time, right? So yeah, evaluating your system to work in real time definitely requires that extra thought process to evaluate, what could price do in real time while that bar is building, right? So yeah, so in real time, price could have ticked down first and then moved up and created the high wick afterwards, and then come back down again and close down. So we'll use the low of the bar. Make sure that the low of the bar hasn't touched our EMA5. Yeah. So we will use, so we need to make sure the low of the bar is above our EMA5. Let's see here. What do we have? Well, yeah, like I said, maybe this one will work. So it looks like the low of that bar might barely be above our EMA5. We'll find out here shortly. So, yeah, let's just grab a new comparison solver and just kind of start from scratch here. All right, so we'll compare the high for a long signal or the low of the bar for a short signal. And so the high needs to be below, and the low price needs to be above the EMA5. There. All right, I'm just going to go through and select these prices quickly. There. All right, we want an EMA5. Okay, so now to adjust our outputs. So, yeah, we definitely don't want the low price to be less than our EMA. All right, so we're not looking for these outputs, right? We want the low price to be above our EMA. So we want that output. So we can turn these off and just reverse the long outputs, right? You'll notice that almost all the time when you're using a comparison solver, your outputs are going to be opposite of each other, right? So, and so we can see here, right, our low is below the EMA5, so there's no short, no short, no short. So this didn't quite make it. Didn't quite make it. And let's see if we have. Here we go. Here's a couple of bars. Well, it's hard to tell, but it's possible that the high of our bar is within 3 ticks, and our bar closed above the EMA5. So there we go. So this might be a possible candidate for a signal there. So let's plug this in. So here we go. We have a bunch of down bars, right? Where the wicks here, the high wicks, are close to our EMA14, but we can see that they're all below the EMA5 here. So once we connect this in, well, whammo, right? It filtered out a lot of this. We see a lot of this got filtered out. Let's see if anything was left. Ah, there we go. Oh, look at that. One lonely little signal here. So great. So we can see, right, the low broke through the EMA14 only by a tick. So yeah, actually look at this. Perfect. We have a great comparison here. So we can see this bar was filtered out because that wick, right, it looks like it was more than 3 ticks away from our EMA14. Yeah. So let's see. Yeah, this is a 5-range bar. So that body is 2 wicks. I'm sorry, the body is 2 ticks. The wick is 3 ticks. Yeah, so we can see that this candle broke through a little too far. So this got filtered out. But this one up here, perfect. Right in that sweet spot. So below the EMA5, and the wick was not overextended too far. So there we go. All right. So that's the last component there. So we now need to connect up all this other stuff. Right. So we had all this, prerequisite conditions from before. And so now, let's see here. Yeah. So now we just would connect this all in like that. And that even got rid of this signal here. Got rid of that signal over here. And let's see. Oh, that's right. Let's connect this back up. All right, let's review this again here. All right, so if we're reversing this for a long, right, price needed to be above the EMA and EMA5, which it was. Here it is. So the low of 2 bars ago needed to be above the EMA5. So, there we go. All right. So what's happening here, right? Our wick is basically touching our EMA5. And obviously the low of this bar is touching that EMA5. Yeah, so this rule here basically, filtered out our signal there. So if I connect this back in, right, all of this, disappears here. So I'm going to, I have to scroll through this chart and let's see if I can find a signal here that will still be qualified. Oh, no. Here we go. All right, I think we actually have a winner here. I'm thinking that bar is going to qualify for us. Right. So, remember, so the output that we're seeing right now, the signals or the output, right? Basically, this is the pre-qualification part. And so our low is not touching the EMA5, not touching, and the low is not touching. So here's our prerequisite, right? These last 3 bars were not touching the EMA5. So now we need to take this prerequisite and we can see we need to extend it forward by at least 2 bars, right? So it takes 2 bars to get a possible setup bar here, right? So I can take a look back node and all right. So I at least need to displace this by 1 bar. All right. So I took the long signal from there. Right. So I basically took our prerequisite, kind of setup signal. And we know that we know we at least need to take this and shift it forward 1 bar. And probably the chances are pretty low that this next bar will actually be the signal bar. But we at least need to shift this forward 1 bar. So that's what we've done with the look back, right? We've taken this signal, shifted it forward onto the next bar. But, you know, as you can probably imagine, it's going to take another bar to generate the setup bar, right? So that it's going to take another bar to be able to get down far enough to get close enough to our EMA14 here. And so for that, you know, this part's subjective. Maybe just using a displacement of 2, would be good enough. But I'm going to be a little cautious and just do a displacement of 1, but use a look back of 2. All right. And basically I want a minimum of 2 bars of a look back here. So let me give this a name here, right? So we have a displacement of 1 and a look back of 2. 2 minimum actually. So there. And oh no, sorry, I wanted the max. There we go. Wanted the max. There. So, right. So we've taken this pre-qualification kind of signal here, and we extended it forward 2 bars here, right? So the signal we had here got shifted 1 bar and then also extended an additional bar. So these two, so the 2 long outputs on these 2 bars are this pre-qualification setup, and then extended 2 bars to hopefully get the setup bar, right? So we can take this and shift this down a little bit. Here, let's zoom out a little bit. Right, so basically all of this was like all the logic just for the setup, or for the signal bar. Sorry, all for the signal bar. And so now we need to take the prerequisite. So here, let's name this. I'm just going to call it prereq for short. So basically we have our prerequisite, logic back here, and connected in to our final AND node. And there we go. And that setup bar still qualified. So great. There we have it. Let's shrink up our chart and see if we find anything else. So now we're just going to go through and verify that all the signals are valid and possibly look for any missing signals. Yeah, so I'm thinking right there, that bar, looks like a good, setup candidate. And if we zoom in here, right there, but I can see the problem was this bar here broke the EMA5. So that disqualified, this balance bar. Another good possible candidate, but again, let's see, yeah, this bar here broke the EMA5. Yep, so it disqualified it. Let's see what here. Yeah, again, this looked like a good candidate, but these 2 previous bars, yeah, broke it. Hey, here we go. All right, there's some good short signals there. Actually, I don't think those qualify. Yeah, this bar here being 2 bars back actually broke the EMA5. So something here. Yeah, so we're missing something. So this actually was disqualified because of that bar right there, right? That bar being 2 bars back broke the EMA there. So let's see what happened here. we'll evaluate the system. So let's take a look at our prerequisites. Oh, interesting. Yeah. So this bar, yeah, got disqualified, but this bar, still qualified. So I'm kind of wondering if maybe some of these prices, instead, some of these closing prices need to be adjusted to the higher low of the bar. Yeah, so as I connect all of these solvers up, there we go. So I can see this solver here, right? There's no short on this bar, right? We're missing a short output on this bar. So let's see, this was comparing the close to be above or below the EMA5. All right, so let's see what this was. Okay. Yeah, so it says price is needs to be below the EMA14 and 5. So yeah, so here we go. All right, so this bar here, yeah, it doesn't qualify as a prerequisite anymore. Yeah, so that's our problem. All right. So we need to figure out how to basically remove this signal from this prerequisite bar. So this bar here, this was our last prerequisite bar, right? And then we needed to wait for price to move in, right, and pull back to our EMA14. All right, well, I just need to kind of think about this for a sec. Yeah, all right. So again, going back to, my original kind of instinct here, which was, I think, instead of using the closing price, we need to use the high of the bar or the low of the bar. Yeah. There we go. All right. Yeah, so that solved it. There we go. That got rid of that prerequisite signal from this bar here. So now, if I look at the signals, there we go. So this one was eliminated. Yeah. All right. Yeah, that was eliminated. Yeah, so there we go. So the high of the price bar, 2 bars back from the signal bar, needs to be below the EMA5. So the signal bar, looking back 2 bars, well, even looking back 3 bars, right? So we can see the high is above, the high is above, the high is above our EMA5. Yeah. So there we go. All right. So now we got this working here. Cool. All right. Let's get rid of that. And perfect. So as we look at this one, there we go. Looking back 2 bars, the high of this bar is below our EMA5. All right, let's take another look back. All right, let's evaluate this one here. All right, so looking back 2 bars, the low of the bar was above our EMA5. Yeah, so perfect. Our tail broke that EMA14. Yep. and it closed below the EMA5, so perfect. Let's see what happened here. So this, oh, actually, yeah, it looks like the high of this bar could be more than 3 ticks away. But also, if we look back 2 bars, right, this bar here definitely broke our EMA5. So, yeah. There's probably 2 disqualifications for that one. Yeah, all right. Here's another good one. Yeah, so looking back 2 bars, so at least 2 bars back, right? Our bar was above the EMA5. The 3 bars back, it touched the EMA5, but that's okay. So there you go. Another good signal. All right, well, you know, these are some pretty strict requirements here. So we're probably not going to find a lot of signals. Ah, there you go. There's another one. And yeah, that one looks good. Oh, here we go. We actually got 2 here. Yeah, this long looks good. That short looks good. All right. And I don't think I found any missing ones. So yeah, I think we're good. So let's open this up here and do a summary. All right, so we kind of, you know, broke this into 2 main sections here. Right. So this back here was our prerequisite. You know, basically it was the first couple of rules here, you know, that kind of laid the groundwork, you know, for our bars, you know, basically being separated from the EMA5 or EMA14 and EMA5, right? And then the next couple of rules basically laid the requirements, the ground rules, the requirements, you know, for the actual setup bar itself, right? And then we needed a look back node here to connect the prerequisites to basically, right, to the signal bar logic. So this would be the signal bar logic, right? Because obviously we can see here that, let's take a look at this, right? For example, you know, we have the prerequisite further back here, and it takes at least 1 and 2 bars to get to the setup bar. And so that's what we needed our look back node for, right? Is to connect what's happening, you know, a couple bars back to the actual setup, or I'm sorry, signal bar. So, all right. Well, looks like Tony is good to go. All right. Yeah, so Tony says he probably will lose the 5 EMA rule. Yeah. So, yeah, it just kind of illustrates that's, you know, this is exactly what BloodHound is for, is so you guys can quickly, you know, and easily analyze, you know, various system requirements and adjust them, you know, find something that works better, a little bit better and a little bit better, right? And get rid of the things that, you know, look like they're just hindering the system. So, cool. All right. Let's see. All right. Actually, Weldon has a follow-up question here. I guess when I was talking earlier, much earlier when we're talking about, oh yeah, here we go. Let's stretch this out here. Yeah, when we're at the very beginning, we were talking about the slope. Sorry, the slope. That's the title. So yeah, when we were talking about the slope being flat, Weldon is asking, is slope a visual or a math of rise over run? Yeah, slope is always a math. Slope, yeah, the engineering definition, you know, of slope, which slope is an engineering definition, is a math of rise over run. So yeah, and so that's how, yeah, as I illustrated earlier, guys, the angle of something is purely subjective of how much your chart is squished up or stretched out, right? So angle is subjective, whereas slope is a mathematical formula, right? So yeah, so that's why we don't have an angle solver, because angles are purely subjective, right? I mean, if I stretch my chart out, and if we were using the angle of a moving average, well, our signal would disappear on us, and then of course customers would be like, hey, BloodHound's broken, signals are disappearing, right? So you can't use subjective things, when you're creating a system. So heck, even if you're going to program this into an indicator, the programming necessary to look at the angle or degree of something, that math behind that would be very, very complex to do. Yeah, it would take a whole lot to be able to programmatically find the angle of something. But the slope, that's a straightforward mathematical function of rise over run.